Hello everyone, as I'm recording this, it is Thursday, December the 13th, 2018, about 2 o'clock in the afternoon, and welcome to another Short Story Thursday. Today's short story is going to be entitled simply, Why Adventure? Thought I would go ahead and do this one with my snow woman over my left shoulder here. She seems to be the only snow left in the yard that hasn't melted yet, and she's tilting. It would be kind of cool if at some point during this story she fell over. That would be a moment. But back to the story at hand. Why adventure? Or why do I live the life that I do, where I live in a camper and I travel up and down the southeast coast throughout most of the year? I'm in a different city just about every other weekend, and it's dangerous. And I eat it up. It takes a lot of bravery, a lot of guts, but I'm out there doing it and eating it up and loving it. And also, how do I reconcile that with the other side of myself that just can't stand large crowds or a bunch of loud noises or a lot of activity or confrontation? I have a hard time picking up on social cues and hints and stuff like that. And in those ways, I have the characteristics of what most people would consider a high-functioning autistic or Asperger's, if you will, and most of the time somebody with those characteristics needs a lot of familiarity and routine, but yet I go completely against that and live a life that is just on the road and all over the place. So how do I reconcile those two conflicting sides of myself? I don't know. Somehow I ended up with a strange dichotomy of the two, but as far as why do I not just get a regular 40-hour work week with benefits and get myself a nice apartment or a house that with a mortgage and get myself a girlfriend and start doing all the normal everyday life stuff? Why do I not do that? Well, the simple answer is I want to live. A lot of you have probably heard the phrase, it seems like I was a teenager just yesterday, or where did the time go, and how did I get old so fast? It just seems like I was a kid just the other day. Things like that. Now, a big reason why some people just wake up one day and realize, hey, I'm old now, is because of routine. You see, when your mind has you doing something that's routine, let's say driving the same route to work, making the sandwich at work, or cutting the hair at work, or sweeping the floor at work, or something that you've done just about every day for years on end, your mind is not going to remember each and every time that you do that. It's going to blur them all together. It's going to take that task and just say times 10 years. And that little truncated piece of information is all that's in your head, and the 10 years are gone, and that's all you have. That's why you get that whole wake up and now I'm old kind of thing. And my adventuring is a way of trying to fight that and actually live, actually feel the time as it goes. I'm going to give you one story that perfectly illustrates what I'm talking about. There was a time over 10 years ago, and this was between the time that I was a graphic designer and I went into welding. It was that little gap in between the two. I was out of a job, but I had some money saved up, and I had looked at my options and put my resume out, and I had some wait time, and I was just sitting in the apartment. And at this time, GPSs were not really all that affordable. They were out there, and Google Maps and MapQuest was a thing, but GPSs were not that affordable for just somebody like me, so I was getting lost a lot, and it was a source of real frustration for me. But on that day, I decided that I was going to just embrace it. I was going to go get lost on purpose, just to try to overcome some of the anxiety that kept happening every time I would take a wrong turn and ended up in unfamiliar territory with no clear GPS or anything to get me back. I said, I'm going to go get lost on purpose, and I'm just going to keep driving until I see something familiar and find my way back home. So that's what I did. I got in my, at the time it was a Jeep Grand Cherokee, drove and drove and drove, and ended up at a place about 45 minutes away from home and it was getting dark, and I decided to just stop at a restaurant. And I stopped at a restaurant that I had never been in before, never heard of, didn't know anything about. I just said, that looks nice, just pulled in there. And I can still remember the name of the restaurant was J. Alexander's, and I went in there, and it turned out to be one of these really kind of fancy, take your date to kind of fine dining restaurants. Not to the point where they have their own like little circular pans where they put the wine glasses on them, but it was fancy enough that the waiters had the napkin over their arm. So when I came in, the waiter comes up and looks at me and says, are you waiting on someone? You got somebody else coming? And I said, no, it's just me. And he gives me this kind of this puzzled look and just takes me over to a corner table, booth, and I sit in there and I order a couple of appetizers and a glass of water. And while I was waiting on that to come out, I had my sketchbook with me. I flipped it open and finished up a little one-panel comic, and it was just a guy holding a cat, and he's saying, "Hi, my name is Adam, and this is my house cat. We've never met before." And when the waiter finally came back and gave me my food, I showed it to him and asked him if he understood it. And he read it and gave me this puzzled look and just says, "No, I don't get it." So I closed the sketchbook and went ahead and ate the meal. I can remember it was coleslaw, and I don't remember exactly what, probably hot wings. But I remember the coleslaw because it had a spice in it that wasn't just, this wasn't somebody that came into the kitchen and was trained on how to cook kind of thing. This was somebody that really knew what they were doing. That had been to culinary art school, because this had some spice in there that I've never had in coleslaw before. It was done really well. And so I finished the meal, and then I got back in my Jeep and found my way home. So there you go, guys. That was a day for me over 10 years ago. And I can remember about what time of day it was, remember the vehicle I was driving, I can remember the name of the restaurant. If you took me there now and the building is still there, I could show you the table I was sitting at. I can remember what I was eating, what I was doing, all of those details on a day that was over 10 years ago. And the reason why I can remember all that is because I was outside of what's familiar. I was outside of my routine, and I've got a memory of a day. Let me ask you guys this. How many memories like that do you have of days over 10 years ago? If you're up in your 30s or your 40s and your days have started blurring together and meshing, and you're having a hard time remembering all this because you've already crammed so much life into your head, how many days 10 years ago can you remember? If you're having a hard time remembering any of them, that's because you've gotten in a rut. You have gotten into a routine, and your life is passing you by, and you're not adventuring. And that is the life that I live. I live that philosophy as much as I possibly can, and I've made it my living. I've made it my life. And on that note, I am going to take Nestor and put him in the truck, and the two of us are going to head towards Elizabethton, Tennessee, which is going to have us going through part of the Tri-Cities area. And today, I don't know what I'm going to do. If I see a thrift store that I've never been in, I'm going to go in there, and if I find a comic book or a VHS tape or anything like that that I've never heard of, I'm going to buy it, watch it, or read it. If I see an Asian market, I'm going to go in, find something I've never eaten, and I'm going to eat it. If I see a restaurant that looks curious, that I've never been into before, I'm going to go in there, find the strangest thing on the menu, and I'm going to eat it. That's what I'm going to do today. Today, I'm going to get out, and I'm going to live. And if you don't do something like that on a regular basis, I would encourage you to also get out and live. Don't let your life pass you by. And if you like this, please go ahead and hit that thumbs up like button. Leave comments, questions, suggestions, and requests. Subscribe if you haven't already, and hit that bell icon to become part of the notification squad. And remember, guys, I'm doing my best to try to get to and reply to as many comments as I can. So give me some comments to work with, and I look forward to seeing you in the next episode.